Did you guys know?
Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Federico Sucre, and I'm an admission fellow here in the admission office at Amherst College. I actually went to Amherst myself, and I graduated this past May 2013. And this is Servet.
Hi, I'm Servet. I'm a sophomore here. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Originally, I went to New York City's largest high school, and so coming to Amherst, a small liberal arts school, was a major change for me. But I'm really happy here. I'm a diversity intern, which means I help organize the diversity open houses on campus as well as the admitted students open house for the admissions office. I'm also a telementor, which means I work with a handful of high school students with their college applications in terms of reading their essays, helping them with exams, giving them advice about the whole college application process. So I'm happy. I'm happy to give this presentation.
Yeah, and so I'm from Venezuela. I didn't mention that before. I was born and raised in Caracas, Venezuela. I lived there until I was 17 years old, and then I came to the US for 2 years of high school in New Mexico. And that's when I applied to Amherst. That's when I heard about Amherst College. So I applied being there, and then I came here. And during my time at Amherst, I was a political science, French, and interdisciplinary triple major. Amherst gives you Amherst gives you the option of creating your own major, so you can do that if you want to. I can speak about that a little bit more later on. What else did I do here? I played soccer in the varsity soccer team. I was a Spanish tutor. I was a resident counselor during my sophomore year. Every dorm on campus has at least one resident counselor. It's basically like a mentor student who can help other students in the dorm do different things. And I was also a part of the investment club we have here for a couple years. But then I founded a domino club with my twin brother, who also went to Amherst. In Venezuela, we play a lot of dominoes, the actual game, with all the strategy, connecting the numbers. So we taught some friends how to play dominoes, and it turned out to be a really fun and social event. So we organized big events with the president of the school and some deans and some faculty members and some students. And yeah, for 4 years we played a lot of dominoes here. So Amherst is a place that will really allow you to create new things, whether it's in the classroom or outside of the classroom. And that was certainly my experience here.
So in terms of, we're really excited to give this presentation. In terms of questions, so we decided that we'll just funnel questions as they come in. We have like a little screen where the questions pop up, so feel free to send them our way whenever the questions arise, and we'll address them throughout the presentation.
Yeah, and we are going to be talking to you for about 45 minutes, I think, but we don't want to speak the whole time about what we think is important. We want to take what you think is important. So if you want to ask any questions, again, as Servet told you, write them down. We're going to get them, and then we can address them as they come in. So Amherst is a liberal arts institution. So the liberal arts is different from other universities that may have pre-professional programs. Amherst doesn't really have any pre-professional programs here. We have majors that may be a little more general. So we don't have any engineering. We don't have any accounting or business. We do have math and economics, physics, chemistry. We don't have any education or nursing. So nothing that's actually preparing you for a professional career right away. Amherst is trying to give you a broad introduction to different majors, to different disciplines, so that after you try different majors and different disciplines, you can make a more informed decision as to what you want to do during your 4 years at Amherst. And hopefully that will help you decide what you want to do as a career later on.
So what's great about liberal arts colleges is right off the bat, it's in the name, a college. It's not a university. At least with telementoring, like, I get a lot of questions about the difference. And so with colleges, right off the bat, the first thing is that you're always taught by a professor. It's never a TA. So all of your lectures, all of your discussions are always run by a professor, typically one that has a PhD, who's probably spent their whole life's work on the subject they're teaching. Excuse me. So that's a great thing about the liberal arts. I'm sorry, about colleges in general, liberal arts colleges. In addition to that, because in liberal arts colleges you don't have any graduate students, all of the school's resources are directed towards undergraduates, and so all of like the college's entire endowment, all of their energy, all of their resources are exerted just towards your 4 years here, which is great. So that allows for a lot of flexibility in terms of small class sizes, in terms of you really being able to pursue what you want to do. And so, as Fede was talking about not having pre-professional programs, the idea behind liberal arts colleges is really to embrace the life of the mind. And so, for you to literally go out and explore whatever field you want to go into. And the best part is that once you take your time at a liberal arts college and figure out what you want to do, you still have professional school after after college where you could really spend that time specializing in whatever profession you want. And what's great is like because of the rigor of the coursework at Amherst College, we have really strong admission rates across the board for MBA, med school, and law school admissions.
Yeah, and you would be surprised, but even when you're a student at Amherst, even though you're not getting a pre-professional degree, we have so many consulting firms, investment banks, a lot of fellowships opportunities, and we have education like Teach for America. So a lot of employers that are coming to Amherst because they know the quality of students and the quality of education that you're getting here. So sometimes people worry that you're not going to get something pre-professional and you're not going to be able to get a job in an industry that you want to be working in, but that's totally not the case. I think, as I said before, Amherst is a place of opportunity, and if you really know how to sell yourself in an interview, the preparation that you're going to have here is going to help you go through and work in any industry that you're going to work in. We were talking about the small class sizes before, and there's a really cool program that the school promotes and the school runs, and it's geared towards making you build connections and build relationships with your professors. This program is called TYPO, Take Your Professor Out, and the idea is that if you're taking a course in any semester, you can get together with some of your classmates in that course, and then you can invite the professor out to dinner at a restaurant in town. And then you go to dinner with the professor, and then the school, Amherst, will pay for that dinner actually. They will give you up to $15 per person to take the professor out to dinner. And so you get to know them in a more social setting, and not in the more formal setting of the classroom or their office. So I always think that that's a pretty cool program, and I definitely took advantage of it when I was a student here. So, liberal arts schools in general have a small population. Amherst only has 1,800 students. Most of the other liberal arts schools are going to have, I would say, fewer than 3,000 people. So that really makes it so that you have a sense of community in the place. At Amherst, we certainly have a sense of community, and as I said, not only do you get to know your peers very well, but you can get to know your professors, and you can get to know staff members. Servet and I never met when I was a student here last year, and he was a freshman, but now I'm working here at the school in the admission office, and we have built a connection as a staff, me as a staff member and him as a student. So those connections are not really even unique only to the admission office. They are happening in any other department, even the dining hall here. So you really get yourself surrounded by a lot of really smart, hardworking, and caring people at a place like Amherst. So now we jump into diversity, and it's funny because I myself was an international student when I came to Amherst. As I said, I'm from Venezuela, and my family is still in Venezuela. My twin brother and I ended up at Amherst, but everyone else is basically back home. My parents, my other siblings, and Amherst has a very, very diverse community. Before I came here, I thought that it was all going to be, very American and very white dominated, but it's totally not the case. As I said, I was an international student, and I was part of that 10% of international students that we have here from more than 50 different countries. Many languages are spoken here, mostly English, of course, but a lot of people speak many other languages before they come here, and then a bunch of other people start taking languages when they come here. We have almost all the 50 states, U.S. states represented. Um, some years we do have all the states. Some other years we have 48, 49 different states. But for the most part, we even get a lot of diversity within the U.S. And that's something people don't really think about sometimes. You think that, 10% of international student population, that's the only diversity the school has, and that's totally not the case. At a place like Amherst, you find so much diversity, and not only geographic diversity where people come from, but also diversity of race and gender and socioeconomic background. We have a great financial aid policy, which we'll speak about a little later. And it really allows us to get the most talented, smart, hardworking people here, no matter what their background is, no matter whether or not their families can pay for Amherst. Um, and then we also get a pretty good balance of public schools versus private schools, men, women ratio, all of those things. Do you want to add anything to diversity?
I mean, you pretty much covered it. Going to New York City's largest high school, I was definitely exposed to a great deal of diversity, different people, different people from different socioeconomic statuses, um, people of different ethnicities. I mean, um, so many different people, And so when I came to Amherst, it was kind of like a similar atmosphere, just on a much smaller scale. You know, sports players and non-sports players. It was just, kind of the next step of, just the next step of my experiences in high school. But again, just in a much more tightly knit community where, I knew everyone. Professors knew my name. They invited me to their house for dinner. I would take them out with a typo program, and so it was just I mean, the diversity here is just fantastic. I mean, I have no other way of explaining it.
Yeah, and I always say that you can go to the classroom and you can learn a lot from your professors. They have so much knowledge, especially Amherst professors, because they are all extremely qualified. And you can learn a lot, but you only spend 2, 3, 4 hours a day in the classroom. The rest of the time, you are outside of the classroom, surrounded by your peers. And I think that's what's really shaping you as a person when you come to Amherst. The people that you interact with on a daily basis in the classroom, but also especially outside of the classroom, as I've been saying. Who your roommate is your freshman year when you come here, or people on your floor, or people who are playing dominoes with you, or in that a cappella group. Those people are really going to shape who you are and who you become during your time here. And you want to surround yourself with people who are hardworking, smart, and motivated and passionate about what they do. And quite honestly, the people who get into Amherst get here not only because they're smart and they get good grades and GPAs and SAT scores and all those things, but they have something else to bring to the table. We get applications from very, very qualified students, and we have a hard time selecting the ones that we think are not only going to be good students in the classroom, but are going to be good Amherst College students also outside of the classroom. So yeah, you really want to surround yourself with a diverse, smart, hardworking group of people. Let's see. So yeah, people at Amherst are very open to conversations about a range of topics. If you come here, Amherst is not the place where you're just going to sit in the back of the room and be invisible for one semester or for 4 years. That's not going to happen. And if that's the kind of place that you're looking for, Amherst may not be the right place for you. But if you're looking to be engaged, if you're looking for a place where you can challenge others' opinions, including the professor, but also be challenged and be open to shaping your interests and shaping your opinions, Amherst is going to play that is going to offer you that. It's going to be a place that where you're going to find a lot of intellectual vitality, people who are very curious to learn and to do new things. And I can definitely speak about my experience here, and I'm sure Servet can too. But we're going to try to stick it to Amherst as a whole, and maybe giving you some little examples of our own experience here. So Amherst has an open curriculum. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the concept of the open curriculum. It's basically the opposite of a core curriculum. And so what it essentially means is that when you come to Amherst, you are going to be able to choose every single course that you take during 4 years here. Other institutions, and I'm sure that's the way it is in high school for most people, that's the way it was for high school in high school for me is they tell you that you have to take math and a science and a humanity and a language, and they try to diversify the kind of courses that you're going to take. And that's true for a bunch of colleges as well. When you come to Amherst, that's not the case at all. Every single course is chosen by yourself. If you don't like history, you don't have to take any history. If you don't like math or the sciences, you don't have to take math or the sciences. You choose every single course that you take when you come here. And that's one thing that varies from even among the liberal arts colleges. Some liberal arts institutions will make you take certain courses. Amherst goes the other way and allows you to do whatever you want to do. So the way to explain this is by saying that we do have 3 requirements that you have to complete when you come to Amherst. The first one is that you complete a first-year seminar. So the first-year seminar is a course that's designed to make you, or to help you make the transition between high school and college. So it's going to be writing intensive, reading intensive, speaking intensive, and it's going to be like that just so that you get used to the pace of what Amherst is going to be like for 4 years. The professors who teach those courses actually choose to teach the first-year seminars, and they're always going to be there throughout the whole semester, helping you with your papers, helping you become a little more confident participating and expressing your ideas in the classroom. And if you don't mind, Servet, do you mind sharing your experience in your first-year seminar?
Sure. So when I got a list in an email with a whole bunch of different first-year seminars that were available for me to take. So I chose this class called Political Leadership, which is a class taught by a senior poli-sci faculty member who where the class was designed to explore different ideas of ruling. So we started with with the nature of ruling. So we started with like Aristotle type readings and like the nature of law, and then we moved into much more. We moved into like case examples. So we read like Machiavelli, Alexander the Great, and like we examined different kinds of arts of ruling, if you will, and what that meant for both the society as a whole, what that meant in terms of the rights people were afforded, and ultimately looked at whether or not that kind of ruling was successful. So it wasn't necessarily about what makes a good ruler. It was more about how the art of ruling shapes the society you're in. And so within that class, we had 4 papers to write, and this was my first college paper ever. What's great is that every professor has this thing called office hours, where they would have a set time and date every week on their schedule, where they just sit in their office and be open for any students to come by and visit them. And so they really encourage that, especially for first years, just as Fede mentioned, to build this relationship with your professor, but also, I mean, professors understand this is your first college paper as well. So we spent time, talking about different research methods. We got a whole, we had a whole meeting with our librarian, and like she talked about different archives that were available on the internet through databases, but also through the special collections and archives at Amherst College. Which was really helpful in allowing me to, use primary sources and scholarly work that I cited in my papers, just to give them more credibility, really. And then just throughout, with my first paper, professors spend a lot of time, especially with the first-year seminars, critiquing your work. And by the end of it, you could just see yourself doing better. And just by reading your first college paper and your last college paper in your first-year seminar through the help of your professor, you see a major difference in the quality of your work just within that class alone. Not only through the subject material that you're writing about, because I never thought I'd be writing about like 16th century, monarchs ruling, just ruling in general.
That was Professor Tiersky, right?
Tiersky, yeah.
It's funny because I took the same first-year seminar, but back in my day, back when I was a first year, the course was called Leadership, Citizens, and Democracy. So there was a big focus on democracy and how political leaders just exercise democracy, basically, in their countries, in their states, or whatever it is, whatever position of leadership they have. Well, yeah, that's a first requirement that you need everyone is going to have a first year seminar, but as Servet mentioned before, you will actually have a chance to choose from a list of 30 different first year seminars. So, even though you have to take one of them, you still get a lot of options. The second requirement is that you complete 32 courses over the course of 4 years at Amherst. And that's pretty straightforward because every semester you take 4 courses and you have 8 semesters, so it adds up to 32 courses. You cannot graduate early when you come to Amherst. So even if you have AP courses or IB courses that you took in high school, you will be able to place out of introductory courses. So if you took AP Economics, let's say, and you want to place out of Introduction to Economics because you have already covered that material, you will be able to do that, but you will still have to complete 32 courses in order to graduate. The third requirement is that you complete a major. So completing a major at Amherst is also fairly straightforward because out of the 32 courses that you take, a major has an average of 10 courses. So it's normally between 9 and 12 courses, I would say, every major. So in my case, political science was only 10 courses to complete. Then I had my first year seminar, and that's 11, right? So out of 32, I still had 21 courses to do whatever I wanted. I was taking French every semester because I wanted to learn the language, and then I went to study abroad in France. And by the time I came back, I only needed 1 course to complete the French major. So I said, why not? Let's do it as a double major. And then my thesis, which was on Venezuelan poetry and politics, turned out to be a third major for me, which is one of those interdisciplinary majors that I created with the support of 3 professors. So even if you double or triple major, you still get a chance to explore a lot of different disciplines, a lot of different majors, and that's what the open curriculum allows you to do. So in my case, even with that triple major, I still took courses in economics, philosophy, math, art history, and I even took theater in 2 semesters of my senior year. I never took theater in my life. So the open curriculum and the liberal arts are really going to allow you to explore new things and hopefully discover new passions, new talents that you have never discovered before.
So we have a question. That the question is, how big are class sizes at Amherst? I've only been here for 3 semesters, and so Fede might be a more accurate sample, but in my experience, I'm taking a class next semester, hopefully. It's a research colloquium called America's Death Penalty, taught by Professor Serrett. And the class actually has 6 students, 6 sophomores that could enroll in the course. So that's probably the smallest class that's on campus, at least that I've experienced, or that I've encountered rather. And the largest had about 90 students. And that was a large seminar called the Social Organization of Law. It's actually not taught anymore. Just to give you an idea, like my biggest class was 90 students, and that's not even taught anymore. My smallest was 6. But the average, I would say, is probably about 15 students. And that's, just in a regular size class, the norm is about 15 to 20, depending on the professor and depending on the demand for the class. Some majors require that you take a certain class, and so those might be a little bit bigger. But for the most part, I'd say 15 is a good number. In terms of, and the second part of the question is if students are able to get a lot of one-on-one attention with professors, and my answer is absolutely. For example, I took a class my first semester called The Tea Ceremony in Japanese Culture. It was a junior level seminar. I didn't exactly know that a 300 level class was actually harder than a 100 level class. So, I'm just this ambitious freshman that just signed up for this class that I think would be pretty interesting. And, after the first class, I speak to the professor and, I tell him I don't really feel ready for this. And all he said was, no, you'll be fine. When you're selecting your courses, you also get an academic advisor, which is a professor on campus whose job it is to kind of make sure you're making reasonable choices in your coursework. So I went to her and she told me, I think you could do this course, I really don't think you should drop it. So I said, okay, fine, I might as well take the words of these adults. I'm just this, first year freshman, why not? Long story short, I ended up going to about every office hours the professor had. And, he would sit down, he would never sigh or moan or whatever, and we would, talk about the reading or talk about the paper that we have due. And there were times where we couldn't finish our discussion in his office because he had to go to his house to like feed his dog, and so he would just invite me to his house. We would take a walk to his house talking about um, you know ancient tea history, and like warlords in Japan, on our walk to his house, and then like I would eventually end up having dinner with him. So there's absolutely a lot of one-on-one attention, especially because the faculty to student ratio is, I think,
8 to 1.
8 to 1. Okay, I was
Yeah.
gonna say 7 to 1. 8 to 1. That there's always an opportunity for you to sit down and have a long conversation with a professor. You always get the time you need, which is what's so great here.
Absolutely. And so that's what the open curriculum allows you to do at Amherst. Those three requirements you have to fulfill if you want to graduate from Amherst. First year seminar, um, 32 courses in 4 years, and then completing one major. But if you do that, everything else is up to you, basically. So yeah, we already explained what the open curriculum is. So yeah, the benefits of the open curriculum, I think we're going to reiterate a lot of the things we have said, and but basically a lot of opportunity to explore different things. You don't have to jump into a major right away. You can explore things and then make a decision. Um, so there's no required classes, as we said. Everything is your choice. Um, Great opportunity to double major, because since majors on average have 10 courses, then a lot of people double major and they still get 12 or 13 electives that they can choose, basically. And yeah, you are basically taking ownership for your own education, and that's the biggest part for me. The fact that there's something to be said about making a choice. When you choose to do something, you are a little more engaged. You are a little more motivated. When someone is telling you what to do, then you may not even want to be there. So that's what happens in the Amherst classroom. You are motivated, you want to be there, and so is everyone, including the professor. So you're never going to be in a class where people don't want to be there because everyone chose to be there as opposed to somewhere else. So Amherst is part of a 5-college consortium. So what is the 5-college consortium? It's basically an alliance of 5 institutions, 5 colleges and universities that are all within 10 miles from one another. So you have Amherst College sharing the town of Amherst with UMass, the University of Massachusetts. Then we have Smith College in Northampton, and that's a women's college. It's actually the largest women's college in the country. Then we have Mount Holyoke College, which is the oldest women's college in the country, and it's about 20 to 25 minutes away from Amherst. And then we have Hampshire College, which is a little under 2,000 students. It's a little smaller than Amherst, maybe 1,600 students, and they are just down the road, 10 minutes away from our campus. So the 5 schools work together to offer the best opportunities in terms of academics, but also in terms of extracurricular activities to all the students who participate in the 5 colleges. So in total, we have about 35,000 students in the 5 colleges. Amherst only has 1,800. Smith has like 2,500. Mount Holyoke has like 2,200. Hampshire has about 1,600. And then UMass is actually the largest campus around here. And they have about 22,000 undergraduates and then about 7,000 graduate students. So it's like a little city, I say, because they have big buildings. If you come to Amherst, you're going to see that everything is clustered, everything is close, all the buildings are close to one another. And then you go to UMass, and it's much more spread out, and they have big buildings and a lot going on there. We're actually very privileged to share the town of Amherst with them, because a small school like Amherst by itself wouldn't really attract that many restaurants or that many attractions in general. The fact that we have UMass and almost 30,000 students that go to that campus, to that school, really has made the town of Amherst a really fun place to live in. And also, but still, not losing the tight community that you get for being a student at Amherst College. You wanna?
So, in terms of the 5 colleges, what's great about this consortium is that there's also the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority, which is a bus system that runs through Amherst and Northampton and throughout the whole area, really. And it's a free bus service that connects all the 5 colleges. And so you're able to, visit, if you have friends at one of the colleges, you're able to just take a bus ride, um, and go there. And so you're physically also uh, connected with these schools. So what's great about the five colleges, as Fede mentioned, is it allows for students to really go, really expand their opportunities in terms of academics. So within the five colleges, you're allowed to take classes in any of the other four colleges, if let's say you're an Amherst student. And so, for example, I know a friend of mine who's an art and art history major is taking, I believe it's welding, at Hampshire College, because it's not offered here. UMass Amherst has a great linguistics program that Amherst doesn't have a linguistics program. So a bunch of my friends are taking great linguistic classes there, because that's that's a field that they're interested in, and all of those credits transfer over easily through the five college consortium.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what my experience. I only took one course in the consortium during my time here. I got to my senior year, and I thought I was never gonna take a course in the five colleges. But then I started getting into business. I started getting more interested in business, and I'm still considering going to business school later on. But we don't have any business courses at Amherst because we're a liberal arts institution. But UMass has a great management school, and even though in order for the courses to count towards your Amherst 32 courses, they have to be liberal arts courses. But there are some exceptions here and there, and one of the exceptions is financial accounting. So I took a course in Introduction to Financial Accounting at UMass during my very last semester of college at Amherst. And it was a great experience. It was a very different setting. The course was in a big lecture hall with like 500 people, which is bigger than my graduating class from Amherst, which had like 450. So it was a very different thing, but it was really important for me to get out of Amherst and see how other institutions work. I learned a lot, made some friends from UMass, met the professor, and just gained a little more perspective on different things. And in addition, I learned a lot about business and accounting, which is what I was looking for initially. So it's a great resource that you get in terms of academics. We just got another question. Someone is asking, what's the student life like at Amherst? And are there a lot of activities on and off campus? The answer is absolutely. On campus, you have so many activities in terms of athletics and music, art, theater. If you do theater, for example, or even if you don't do the theater major, but you like theater and maybe you did it in high school or you've never done it before, you can actually audition to any of the plays that there are at Amherst College. So you don't even have to be a theater major. You don't have to have any experience if you want to audition. Same goes for a cappella groups. You can audition even if you haven't really sang before in a formal way. There are many club sports. Varsity sports are a little different. You have to be recruited by the coach. You could also walk on in the team, but you have to be talented enough that the coach actually wants to get you in the team. But if you don't want to commit so much to a varsity sport, you can also play club sports. And don't let them trick you. Sometimes the club sports take it even more seriously than the varsity sports. I see the rugby guys and the frisbee guys or girls playing, and they have the fall season and then the spring season, and they end up playing more games than the soccer team does. So a lot of opportunities to get involved. And then in the five college consortium, the fact that we have 35,000 students in the area makes it very attractive for bands and speakers and a lot of performances in general that come in the area. So, a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we had Dan Brown speaking here in Johnson Chapel, one of our buildings here. And Dan Brown, if you're not familiar with him, he's the author of The Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons and some other novels or movies as well. And he is a graduate of Amherst. He graduated in 1986, and then he came to speak, not only because it's Amherst College, but because he knows that there is a market for it. He knows that the 35,000 students in the area and professors and staff, they want to be a part of those kinds of events. We had the Cirque du Soleil here when I was a freshman. We had Macklemore and Ludacris in the area for a spring concert. So a lot of different things. You would never get bored at Amherst or in the five college area. So we explained how the academics work in the five college consortium. You can essentially take up to 2 courses every semester at any of the other schools if you are an Amherst College student. And the same applies to any of the other institutions. Um, and yeah, it's a great resource. You know, Servet gave you a great example before of his friend taking a course somewhere else. My example also, there is just a little more depth in terms of the courses that you can take when you go out of Amherst and explore the 5 colleges.
So another thing about Amherst is that there aren't really um, there aren't minors. So you would only have a major associated with your diploma. But within the 5 colleges, there's a certificate program which allows students to kind of, you know, take classes that relate to a much more like a much more specific interest that they have that doesn't necessarily that isn't necessarily offered through a major. So, for example, a lot of my friends do international relations. They take a variety of classes that are related to that uh, to towards international relations, and so they're able to attach that to their diploma. And so, when they're applying for jobs, or let's say if they want to do something at the UN, they not only have, let's say, I don't know, a political science degree, but they also have a 5 colleges endorsed certificate for international relations, which kind of, really, in a really good manner outlines their credentials in terms of why they would be relevant to the UN. So you have a lot of options within just the 5 college programs as well.
Absolutely. So we have another very interesting question here. Someone is asking, what would you say is the biggest difference between high school and college for us personally? So, so maybe Sorbet can answer that because he was in high school very recently.
Very recently. um, I think just, I mean, this might sound a little obvious, but for me, it was the biggest shock. It was the setting. I grew up in New York City, the city bustling with people, and then I came here to, Western Massachusetts, where, the size of Amherst College was a little bit bigger than my graduating class, which was kind of crazy at first. And so the biggest difference for me was not only like the physical setting, but also the academic setting. So, for example, in my high school, there wasn't really a relationship between students and teachers. I mean, my classes had about 35 people each, and so it wasn't really a conversation. It was more of the teacher talking to us and conveying information, and us just jotting it down and taking exams, and that just repeating throughout the entire day. But here it's more of you having a conversation with your professors. Your professors actually treating you like peers. So you can learn from each other. Professors never talk down to you. They're always interested in learning what you know, so that not only can they benefit themselves, but also in return they're conveying their knowledge to you. So it's just the tone of the discussion, the maturity, and the group of people that you're surrounded with. All was probably the biggest difference I had between high school and college. Everyone here is just it's more just the conversations are so much different. The questions that you wouldn't want to be asked, or want to even try answering in high school, they're asked here. The conversations that were probably awkward to have or difficult to have in high school, they're done here, which is what makes this place so great, because it really allows you to break that shell and step far out of your comfort zone, to the point where you're calling your professor by their first name and like having lunch with their kids.
Absolutely. It's a very stimulating environment where you're going to be surrounded by smart, hardworking people, and that just makes you a better person on a daily basis. So let's talk about what Amherst is looking for and what Amherst expects that you are going to submit in your application if you decide to apply to Amherst. There are some countries that have some national exams. So if you are from a country that has national exam testing, then we expect that you're going to submit the results of those. Of course, your grades and your transcript, your GPA, that really gives us a sense of who you have been, not only at the moment you're applying to high school, but who you have been in the last 4 years of your academic experience. Then, in terms of standardized tests, we give you two options. You can take the SAT 1 with two SAT subject tests, or you can take the ACT, one or the other. If you take both, you can choose which one you want to submit. And we will also super score your standardized tests. So we will take the highest score, the highest grade that you got in each of the components. We're going to ask you to submit some personal essays. So Amherst uses the Common Application as part of our admission process. So the Common Application will ask you to write a personal statement, and that's going to come not only to Amherst but to all the other schools that use the Common Application that you will be applying to. Then the Amherst supplement, which is now inserted within the Common Application, will give you actually two options. You can choose one of the topics we give you and write an essay, or you can actually write or use a paper that you have already written for high school, for a grade in high school, and then submit that as part of your application. We'll ask you to get two recommendation letters from teachers in high school, and then we will ask you to send any supplemental materials. So if you have an art portfolio or music samples and all that, and also your personal experiences in terms of extracurricular activities. So if you have a talent, or so let's say you play music, or you do art or theater, or you play a sport, or you do debate, we want to know that you have done those things and that you have been successful at them. So it's going to be a very comprehensive application, and a lot of people ask, what's the most important part of the application? All of them are important, and there's a reason why we're asking for them. I will say, though, that we will get a lot of applications from very smart kids who have good grades and good SAT or ACT scores. And if that's the only thing you have going for you, that may not be the best thing. You want to have something else going for yourself. We want to know what else you're going to bring to the table when you come to Amherst. We got another question here. Someone asking about social life at Amherst and how does it feel to go to such a small school. And I always say that Amherst can be as small, but also as big as you want it to be. Yes, we only have 1,800 students, and it's a small community within our campus. However, if you really are getting tired, or if you're getting bored of being around the same people all the time, which could happen, you could either go study abroad for one semester or for the whole year, or you can just get out of the Amherst campus and go in the 5 College area. Go get the PBTA, the bus, and go to Northampton, which is only like half an hour away. Or you go to UMass, which is 10 minutes away walking. And you're going to see a lot of people that you've never seen before. So there is no excuse to complain about Amherst being really small, because we do really have the benefit of the 5 College consortium. So a lot of people worry about liberal arts colleges being expensive, because they are. They are very expensive. Going to college is a big investment that someone is going to be making when a student comes to Amherst, whether it's their family or a private institution or Amherst College. The great news is that Amherst, yes, is expensive, but it's also very affordable. We have three main things that make our financial aid policy very, very unique. The first one is that we are need blind. The second one is that we are need based, and the last one is that we have a no loans policy. So need blind means that when you apply to Amherst, me or I as an admission officer, I'm not going to have access to your financial aid information when I'm making a decision on whether or not you're going to be accepted or rejected. The decision is going to be made based on your qualifications, based on your achievements, based on all of the points that I mentioned before. Those are the only factors that I'm considering as I review your application. Your financial situation is not going to play any role into that decision that I'm going to make. Okay, so the decision is based on merit. Okay, on merit and qualifications. However, having said that, we don't give any merit scholarships. So all of our financial aid is, as I said before, need based. So you will have to fill out all the financial aid forms when you apply to Amherst, and then the financial aid office is going to review all of the forms that you're going to submit, and then they're going to determine how much you can pay. And if we determine that you can pay 100% for your education, we will expect that you will pay that. But if we determine that you cannot pay not even 1%, Amherst commits to give you the full financial need, the full financial aid that you need, basically. So if you need 100% of aid, Amherst commits to give you that. And that's where the third piece comes in. A lot of other institutions may give you some financial aid, um, but loans may be part of that financial aid package. At Amherst, we got rid of financial aid. We got rid of loans for financial aid. So all the money that you get in your financial aid package is basically grant scholarship money that you don't have to worry about paying back to the school ever again. And that's something that some people don't consider sometimes when they are applying to school, loans, or when they get a financial aid package and they get very excited. Um, but if that financial aid package has loans, you will have to pay them back eventually. At Amherst, that will not be the case because all of the financial aid is grant scholarship money. So, we have a slide here with what's included in the cost of attendance to Amherst. So you can go one by one. You can see the comprehensive fee is like $55,000. We have other fees like for activities and programs. It's like $750. Health insurance and books and supplies and personal expenses, travel, all of those things add up to an average of like $62,000. So it is very expensive. But as I said before, Amherst really makes it affordable. And this is how need-based financial aid will look like for any applicant. So financial aid, when it's need-based, is going to consist. In any other institution, it normally has work study, loans, and then grants and scholarship. At Amherst, loans don't play any role, as you can see there. So, you will have some expected family contribution. So your family will be expected to pay something. If we determine that they can pay that, then the first thing of your financial aid is going to be work study. So we'll give you the opportunity to get a job on campus, and then you can work in order to help your family cover their financial aid costs. And then everything else is scholarship money that comes from Amherst. We have as Servet mentioned it before, we have a great endowment, a lot of generous alumni and donors who have donated a lot of money to Amherst so that we have this very generous policy. Our first priority is to make Amherst affordable to anyone who is qualified to get into the school, basically. So it's time for more questions. I can see that we have more questions here. Let's see. All right, that's a thank you note.
That's the last one.
Okay, so someone is asking regarding early decision. Do you still have a good chance of being accepted even if you apply for regular decision? The short answer is absolutely. Early decision is going to be fewer applications, and we also take fewer. We only send fewer letters of acceptance for early decision. So most of the decisions are going to happen regular decision. In terms of deadlines for those, early decision deadline is November 15th, so coming up in a little over a month, and then we let you know about our decision by December 15th. And then regular decision deadline is January 1st, and we let you know by April 1st. But applying early decision versus applying regular decision, none of them gives you an advantage over the other. We know the kind of applicants that are going to apply to Amherst at the end. So, if we don't get those kinds of applicants early decision, we trust and we know that they will be applying regular decision. So it won't really give you an advantage. You just have to make sure that you put together the best application that you can put from the start. And if you can do that by the early decision deadline, I would recommend doing it, but just for your own sake, because if you get in, then you don't have to apply to any other schools and you don't have to worry about waiting until April 1st. However, if you don't think you're going to have time to put a very strong application by November 15th, then wait until January 1st. It won't hurt you, it won't benefit you as well. Let's see if we have any other questions here. If not, we're going to wrap it up. I'll let Servet say a few last words of wisdom and advice.
Few last words of wisdom. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. This was a lot of fun for me to do. In terms of words of advice, I know a lot. So all of you will be applying to colleges, whether or not you come to Amherst. It really doesn't matter. My word of advice would be that in the end, the whole college process will work out. Like it'll all work out. You'll get into a school. Everything will be okay. I know this is probably like a really stressful time in your life. You're taking exams. There's like the October SAT, and then you're thinking about applying early. There are people who are doing QuestBridge. There are people who are doing a whole bunch of other programs, and in the end of the day, you'll get in somewhere, and things will always work out. And once you're there, just always step out of your comfort zone. Do something you've never done before. Take like a random tea ceremony class like I did, and then end up becoming like best friends with the professor. So just step out of your comfort zone, but just remember that like it'll all work out. So just don't freak out about the college process.
Yeah, and if we don't have any more questions, I'll just give you one last quick word of advice. I will say that, in terms of college admission, it doesn't really matter whatever you've done for the last 16, 17, 18 years if you don't put the work in the last 3, 4 months leading into the application. Okay? So you may have the best accomplishments, you may have the best grades, you may have the best life and everything that you've done and talents, but if you don't show us that in your application with your, working hard on your SATs or ACTs, with your recommendation letters, with your personal essays, if those things don't show how strong you are as a candidate, then everything else doesn't matter. Everything else is wasted. So my advice to you would be work really hard on the next few months. If you're a senior now, you should be working really hard in the next 2 months to put together the best application that you can come up with. And if you're a junior or sophomore or a younger person, take time to think about where you want to go to school. And once you select those schools that you want to apply to, make sure that you can present yourself as the best candidate that you can possibly be. And then you will have no regrets. And then you'll, as Servet said, you can be cool, you can be calm, and then everything will work out at the end.
Yep.
So it seems like we don't have any more questions. So again, thank you very much for joining us. We are very happy to share this with you. And as you can see in the last slide, we have, I'm offering you my information. So you can feel free to send me an email or give me a call, and I'm more than happy to talk to you further. Thanks again.
Thank you. Good luck.